Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something absolutely fascinating, a technique that is completely shifting how we think about large language models. If you've ever been super frustrated by an AI confidently giving you an entirely wrong answer, like literally insisting a pound of feathers is heavier than a pound of bricks, well, you are going to love the solution we're exploring today.
Which brings us to this massive question. Instead of forcing an AI to just take a wild guess when it's confused, can we actually teach it to recognize its own limits? Essentially, can we teach AI to know what it doesn't know?
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the AI reasoning problem, introducing mixture of reasoning experts, meet the specialized experts, the MoRE workflow process, real-world applications, and wrap up with limitations and computational trade-offs. Let's jump right in.
Starting off with Section 1, the AI reasoning problem. To really appreciate the solution, we first need to understand the frustrating limitation of current models. See, a standard large language model acts kind of like a jack of all trades. It tries to answer absolutely everything you throw at it, but it frequently hallucinates when it has to jump between hard facts, complex math, and abstract logic. Now, the MoRE technique takes a totally different approach. It consults specialized experts, and here's the kicker, it abstains from answering if it's unsure. So it acts way more like a cautious team of specialists rather than that one friend who just refuses to admit they don't know the answer.
Moving right along to Section 2, introducing mixture of reasoning experts.
So, what actually is this new approach? Well, the mixture of reasoning experts, or MoRE for short, isn't just one monolithic model. It's a groundbreaking framework. It improves question answering by using specialized models for different reasoning types and introduces something called selective QA, which honestly is just a fancy way of saying it knows when to keep its virtual mouth shut. It actively decides to step back if its confidence is low, ensuring it only gives accurate answers and completely avoids those embarrassing incorrect ones.
Next up, Section 3. Meet the specialized experts.
Let's see how this builds out our special forces team, right? Every expert brings a highly specific prompting technique to the table. First up, we've got the factual expert. This one is heavily armed with retrieval-augmented prompting, meaning it pulls relevant info straight from external knowledge sources, like Wikipedia. When you absolutely need cold, hard, verifiable facts, like the exact population of Tokyo last year, this is the expert the system calls on.
Next in line is the multi-hop expert. Now, its superpower is taking incredibly complex queries and logically stepping through them using chain-of-thought prompting. So it basically breaks down a massive question into smaller, manageable reasoning steps. If an answer requires jumping from point A to point B to finally deduce point C, the multi-hop expert handles that leap effortlessly. It's like systematically connecting the dots between a CEO, their current company, and that specific company's founding year.
Then we've got the mathematical expert. Like the multi-hop expert, it also uses chain-of-thought prompting, but actually it's strictly fine-tuned just for crunching numbers and solving logical computations. As you probably know, standard language models famously struggle with basic arithmetic and math word problems, so having a dedicated, highly trained specialist right here dramatically boosts the system's accuracy. Finally, rounding out the team is the commonsense expert. This one utilizes generated knowledge prompting to handle those really tricky questions that require implicit human knowledge. That intuitive context that we humans just naturally grasp, but computers almost always miss, like knowing that stepping out into a rainstorm without an umbrella is going to make you wet. It appends relevant factoids to effectively bridge that weird gap between rigid logic and everyday common sense.
Which brings us to Section 4, the MoRE workflow process.
Okay, having all these incredible experts is amazing, but how do they actually coordinate on the fly? The workflow is a precise four-step operation. First, you input the question. Second, all the specialized experts generate a prediction based on their unique expertise. Third, an answer selector analyzes all those outputs and chooses the most reliable one based on consensus, where the experts agree most. And finally, step 4, selective answering. The system makes a definitive choice to either provide the answer or to hold back entirely.
And this right here is the real aha moment of this whole explainer. If the system detects that none of the answers are reliable, it can actively abstain from answering. That answer selector empowers the AI to simply say, "Look, I don't know." By doing this systematically, it drastically avoids generating incorrect, hallucinated answers. It is literally an AI that prioritizes the truth over just sounding confident.
Let's look at Section 5, real-world applications.
Because of this intense reliability, the MoRE technique is perfectly suited for highly sensitive environments where a wrong answer can cause real-world problems. In knowledge retrieval systems, factual accuracy is absolutely paramount, no room for errors. In educational tools, think about it, a single student's question might span factual, logical, and common sense reasoning all at the exact same time. And in customer support, users expect reliable answers across incredibly diverse domains. MoRE ensures a much higher generalizability and trust in these settings than a single model ever could.
Finally, Section 6, Limitations and Computational Trade-offs.
Look, assembling an elite team of experts isn't without its massive costs. Nothing in computer science comes for free. Running multiple experts simultaneously creates significant computational demands, which can be a huge barrier in resource-limited environments. Plus, right now, much of the research and experiments for MoRE are heavily focused on the codex model, so there is still a lot of room for open-source testing to see how broadly this framework can actually be applied in the wild.
And that leads us to the ultimate catch. On one side, you have higher reliability. The AI successfully avoids hallucinations by actively abstaining when it isn't completely sure. But on the flip side, you have lower coverage. The AI inevitably leaves some potentially solvable questions completely unanswered. Basically, by teaching the AI to abstain, you trade overall coverage for higher accuracy. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought regarding the future of AI. Is an unanswered question always better than an educated guess? When you're building an AI system for your own work, are you willing to sacrifice a helpful guess for the absolute safety of silence? It's a fascinating trade-off, and one that's undoubtedly going to define the next generation of artificial intelligence. Thank you so much for joining me today as we explored this amazing concept.